In this video, we want to consider the framework for common professional development. Now, Madden and Mitchell in 1993, they define CPD as the maintenance and enhancement of the knowledge, expertise and competence of professionals throughout their careers according to a plan formulated with regard to the needs of the professional, the employer and society. So it's the development of a program of development that runs throughout the working life of an individual. And this would mean that all organizations, to some extent at least, must subscribe to the idea of common professional development or continuous professional development. If they have linkages because of their trade or their profession, they may have a common approach. But irrespective of that, they should have a continuous approach, which means they should have some programmed event within their working calendars to develop their personnel in terms of skills, competencies, cognitive abilities, critical faculties, whatever it is. They should have some programmed event which enables their employees to develop within the workplace. So it applies to the professional, to the worker. It applies to the employer and society. Society benefits because as a result of these programs, there's more efficiency in society. There's more employment. There's more capacity to beat off the competition from overseas. And there's also perhaps a more cognitive society, a more caring society, because individuals will have more understanding of the processes within societies and the requirements of the societies. So it will build on the school experience, the college experience, perhaps the even university experience. So it's the maintenance and enhancement of the knowledge, expertise and competencies. And its enhancement is the operative term here. Maintenance is essential. If the skills are not maintained, then productivity will fall. There will be more problems and higher costs within organizations. But enhancement means there is progress, there is development, and there's more capacity to deal with change and with innovation. Now, the definition provides two distinct features of CPD. For a start, CPD is a planned and carefully formulated process. It should be carefully worked out within companies. There should be a person responsible for CPD, for continuous professional development. Somebody should be responsible, and they should offer a range of development programs, perhaps not taking long within the the working week, perhaps an hour, could be even less. Depends on the skill or the competencies that are under consideration. If it's a new product that's been introduced, perhaps the employees need to know about something about marketing. If there's an issue with quality, they need to appreciate the importance of selling a good quality product. So there may be opportunities to offer development programs looking at quality, looking at delivery, looking at customer welfare and aftercare service. There could be issues about competition, to understand the competitive nature of the business, new technology. Any one of these could be amplified into a big topic that runs over several sessions and will require continuous updating and continuous inputs. CPD is personal and individual for each person. This is based on their capability and career potential. So some individuals within companies may not want to participate. They may want to simply go to work in the morning and go home in the afternoon or evening and not think about the business. They just see it as a means of getting an income to survive. Others may be interested. And it's important that the interested ones, the ones who see career development as important or understand job security as being important, they may benefit from these programs and may wish to sign up to any program of continuous professional development. And as I said earlier, these programs may be on specific topics, or they may have more long-run ambitions, perhaps leading to membership of some professional body, and perhaps the program has been worked out in conjunction with some professional body, perhaps Institute of Marketing or one of the accountants professions, or accountancy professions I should say, or something in technology or whatever it is. But it is personal. It is for the individual to subscribe and to want membership of some professional development program. Individuals should want it. They should not be forced into attending. Now the CPD model, well, a CPD model involves effective planning, implementation and monitoring. It must be carefully thought out. It can't be haphazard. If it is, attendees will not want to attend in the future. It must be carefully planned. It must have clear objectives. It must have set objectives that it's aiming to achieve. The model is cyclical and seen as a continuous process with a series of steps. It shouldn't be a one-off event and that's it. It should be continuous in the sense that there should be follow-up, there should be amplification of different points, there should be opportunities for feedback and discussion. This is a much bigger issue than simply having the employees attend in a room for an hour or whatever it is and give them the equivalent of a lecture for an hour. It's not like that. It should be more inclusive. It should be more discursive. They should be encouraged to give their inputs. They should be able to criticize, discuss, exchange ideas. This is the way learning can happen within companies, based on their experience, based on their backgrounds. So it's cyclical. It's constantly moving. It's moving on. It's returning to previous points, dealing with those issues, and then moving on again. It's a continuous process. But it does involve effective planning, implementation and monitoring. It's important that it's planned out properly and it's implemented properly. In other words, it's well presented. And it's monitored to ensure that it's meeting the objectives. Now, a CPD model, continuous professional development model, was put forward by Grant and et al. In 1999. We start by some appraisal or assessment of needs. What's required? What does the company need? Perhaps they need their employees to understand some new process, some new machine they're getting in, or some piece of technology. It could be that they need to understand the importance of health and safety in the workplace. Whatever it is, there's some appraisal, some assessment of needs. And the company undertakes this appraisal or assessment of needs, and if there is a deficiency, may design some development package to address it. So they try to prepare a personal development plan, perhaps one for each attendee. That each one who attends the session, the professional development session, will be given a personal development plan to see what they can do to meet the plan, how they're going to change, perhaps keep some records, some notes, report back. So there is an appraisal or assessment that goes on for us to see if there's some need for a development plan, development package. And if there is, then the attendees who are invited may be asked to perhaps participate by the preparation of some personal development. How are they going to work towards solving this issue, or looking at this deficiency and plugging it, or what are they going to do? And then, having got that, having got the development plan worked out, do the development. In other words, implement it. Don't just talk about it or write it down. Live it. Do it. So if it's something to do with, let's say, health and safety within the organization, and the attendees identify areas within their own area that perhaps need attention, then they have spotted this, they have written it down, they've prepared a personal development plan which says that they should monitor this and deal with it. Then deal with it. That's the next stage. But then review any learning that's come out of this, out of doing what has been learnt. Are there issues that were not anticipated? Are there problems that have arisen that were not again anticipated at the start? Or did everything work smoothly? What was the learning? What happened? And what did we learn from the whole activity? And monitor the implementation. Make sure that the implementation has been done correctly. Make sure that the learning, or whatever the outcome is valid, that it does accord with the monitoring exercise. In other words, it's being carefully monitored to make sure that the outcomes are as described. And the monitoring can then fit in with whatever was set out as the need that was going to be addressed in the first place. In other words, that the need has been met, it's been monitored, it's been met, or it has not been met. There is still some way to go. But there's some sort of monitoring of the whole activity. And as I said, that fits back in with the assessment needs, which then will go around in this cycle. So the continuous professional development model is one of spotting needs, spotting areas for development, trying to work out how individuals can develop to meet those needs, then implementing some action plan, some plan to actually address those needs, review whatever learning has come out of the whole exercise, monitor it to make sure that it has met what was designed to be met in the first place, whatever the need was, and then go into the next round. It may be going back over the same areas again to reinforce it, or it may be going on to a different problem and going through the same cycle. Now, appraise and assess needs. Well, that was the first point on our diagram. We can just get back to the diagram for a second. Appraise and assess needs is at the top. So we'll go through each of these. So the starting step for continuous professional development activity is establishing the need for continuous professional development training and development. So there must be some need. If there is no need, it won't happen. So it's identifying the need. What is the need? And if there is a need, how can it be addressed? So we start by identifying needs. And this will be the starting point for the provision of continuous professional development. Line managers and individuals are able to assess their needs and set up development plans to ensure individuals are working to the achievement of these needs. So, looking at needs, the organization has got needs, perhaps individuals have needs, but looking at the needs, then managers, line managers and individuals are able to assess the needs. How pressing are the needs? Is it really important that they're fixed and fixed quickly? Or can the organization carry on with, in a sense, these needs still unplugged? But in order to fulfill the needs, then some development plan must be dreamt up. Some development plan must be developed. And this will ensure that the individuals are working to achieve these needs. Because the development plan means something is going to happen. Whatever the needs are, they're going to be met, and there's a plan to meet them. So something will happen. The assessment of needs can take the form of workplace interview or assessment tests. Generally speaking, workplace interviews are seen as preferable. They're not so intrusive or intimidating to the employees. They much prefer to give their opinions. And it should be done in a way in which the respondent has confidence that they can speak freely. They're not going to be intimidated or perhaps punished for expressing opinions about situations that could be seen as causing problems for the organization. So they should be able to speak openly. Now, it could be in the form of tests. Perhaps one form of test which may be acceptable is by participant observation, by observing the process being carried out and seeing what's going wrong and what can be done. So it's through observation. Perhaps that's the way to do it. Now, second, prepare a development plan. Well, assessment of needs helps individuals identify areas of weakness and enables an opportunity to develop certain skill sets. Once we have got an assessment of needs, then it's important to try to identify weaknesses and then look to address the weaknesses. We've seen that there's a problem. Whatever the problem is, it's been identified. Now the problem is there because there are some weaknesses in the organization. It could be weaknesses in terms of employees' skills and abilities. Simply the employees are being asked to do something which they haven't got the capacity to do. They need training. Or it could be that there are weaknesses because the technology is not appropriate, or the design of the organization is not appropriate, or whatever the area that's under consideration. It could be simply that need exists because there is a weakness on the part of somebody or some people within the organization, and that weakness should be addressed. Training should be given to ensure that those individuals have the capacity to deal with that need. Now, a development plan may include a portfolio of personal goals and development targets. So it may be that there is a development plan that's worked out with individuals, and part of that is to look at their personal goals. What do they want? What is their development requirement? Where do they want to be? In other words, are they keen to be involved? Do they see their future with the business? Do they want to move roles within the organization and do a different job, move departments, or what is it they want to do? And look at a skills audit to identify development needs. Look at who's capable of what and who is not capable. And perhaps looking at the people who are not capable of certain tasks, they're the ones that need perhaps most development. Clearly, within the development budget, priorities have to be struck, and the budget holder for the development plans, that budget holder must prioritize. So where can the resources best be spent? What will give the best return for those resources? It could be developing individuals according to some skills audit, or it could be looking at reorganizing the organization so as to meet personal goals and development targets more fully. Detailed approaches, courses, activities which will help the individual achieve their goals. So having looked at the development plan and developing this portfolio, it may be that there are several courses, perhaps short courses, perhaps one-day courses, that need to be delivered to address certain issues, to give greater clarity to the personnel involved, give greater understanding, develop their skills and point them in the right directions and answer their questions. And that will enable them to work more effectively. They'll achieve their goals, but it may also point them towards a more elaborate development program. There should be some timescale and outcomes of the CPD journey. In other words, it's a continuous professional development, so it's a rollover situation. It's one that the organisation is subscribing to long term. It's there continuously, perhaps every once a week there's a session and something, or once a month, or whatever it is. But there should be some time scale for each individual exercise to come to an end. Otherwise it'll roll on forever. So there must be discipline amongst the course developers to ensure that there are clear objectives, and those objectives can be met within a certain time scale. So within a certain number of weeks or sessions, the attendees will have attained a certain skill level. So there should be outcomes that are specified. If there are no outcomes, no time scale, then the whole CPD exercise will be continuous, it'll be not very well directed, it will not be very well controlled, it'll be just an endless exercise. There should be specific outcomes required by specific dates. Next, do the development. Well, this stage involves the implementation of the development plan. So having got a development plan, now implement it. This phase includes all activities and record keeping to ensure the right measures are in place to ensure goals and time frames are met. This is the one where there is discipline. It's doing the development work, but it means setting out clear objectives. All the activities are categorized, are organized, good records are kept, and the right measures are put in place to ensure that the goals are met within the time frames. So the time frames for each activity are realistic, they're well set out, they're well programmed, it's done professionally, and that's important. Activities in this phase include activities like workshops, courses, online learning, seminars, discussions, readings, researching, all activities which help meet personal targets. So looking at what needs to be achieved will determine which particular path to take. It might be that this particular piece of development which has been identified will require workshops, or it'll require discussions, so that the personnel involved will attend discussion groups to discuss the issues to see what solutions can be found, and the learning is done through that medium. So it could be anything, it could be any one of these, but whatever the nature of the issue will, at least in part, perhaps big part, determine the type of activity that will follow. Now, review learning. Well, this phase involves the completion of the development plan and assessment of learning. It's important at the end of the exercise to reflect back and review the learning. Review what were the outcomes, what was learnt from the exercise. And there's all sorts of benefits here. First of all, it consolidates knowledge on the part of the reflector, the person thinking back, but it can also help to develop future programs of activities. Future professional development activities can be worked out more efficiently and better through reflection on past ones. What went right, what went wrong in the past. And as a consequence of these experiences, better programs can be offered in the future. So look at what has been learned. What exactly was the outcome? And look at the inputs in terms of the processes that were used. Was it a discussion group? Was it a seminar? Was it a lecture? Was it a workshop? What was it exactly? What was learned? And was that the ideal vehicle for the learning? Or could it have been done better in a different way? Was the experience valuable? Was it worthwhile? Was the exercise worthwhile? Given the resources that were put in, given the amount of time that the participants spent on the project, was it worthwhile? Could a different activity have yielded better results, better experiences for the participants? So was it a valuable exercise? Have learning and goals been met? Whatever was set out in terms of the learning outcomes associated with the development program, were those learning outcomes met? And how do we know they've been met? Was there an assessment? Was there a feedback session where deep understanding, good understanding of the process was demonstrated by the participants, so that we know that the participants not only understood what was happening, but they have a good insight, they have a good knowledge of what was discussed and what the outcomes were. It's important to know if the learning goals have been met. Otherwise, as I said earlier and in other videos, the exercise will have been broadly a waste of time. Has the learning opportunity developed career potential? And it goes with number 3, the previous point, but looking at the participants, has it developed the participants? Are they now more cognitive? Are they more efficient? Are they better able to do their work? Do they understand more about their tasks, about how the organization works and functions and how it fits together? Do they have better understanding all over? Not just perhaps even within the organization. Do they understand the importance of quality in terms of sales? Do they understand the technology that's been employed? Do they understand the competitive nature of the business? And how do they understand the impacts of all of these in terms of their own particular functions? So, for example, if they're not very efficient at performing their particular function, then the costs of the business may increase. If the cost of the business increases, the business will become less competitive, which may lead to redundancies or closure of the business eventually. So it's important that the continuous professional development program makes connections between the bigger issues and the smaller issues, and that there has been a learning opportunity for everyone attending the course to understand not just their micro tasks but the macro implications of those micro tasks. Monitor implementation. Well, this stage involves the effective use of CPD training. Monitoring the ability, I should say, of individuals to apply their learning within the workplace. Monitoring could be done by observation, or it could be done through interview, asking the participants if they're applying what they discussed in the training program and how the training program has facilitated their working practices. Has it made the working practices easier, more efficient, better quality? It's monitoring in the sense of looking at the different parts to the task and trying to understand if the training program has made a difference to the individual, and looking at each of those parts to try and develop the individual and to bring clarity to the whole exercise. Monitoring can be in the form of management observation, as I said, and that's probably one of the best ways to do it, to observe the individual to see if the individual is now performing more effectively. And perhaps having appraisals, speaking to the individual and asking the individual for his or her assessment of the before development training and after development training. What were the differences? What's better? What could have been developed more? What are the deficiencies of the development program? Where did it fall short? Where did it not develop? So there's good feedback to the organization, and it means that the task is being done more efficiently, hopefully, and also there is feedback in terms of future professional development training. The model will then restart again if the individual needs further CPD training. That's the cycle. It's taking the individuals, giving them training, monitoring the training to see if there's a difference, if there's an improvement. If there is, looking for other areas of improvement. If there's no improvement, then finding out why not, having further training and development to try and address those issues. And once everything is running effectively, go for the next stage. So there is continuous updating of skills and abilities. And that's really all we're going to deal with in terms of the framework for continuous professional development. The source that we developed or we looked at earlier was that one, and that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.